Ben Affleck recently said the cure for addiction is suffering. That you just suffer enough until one day you wake up and say, I'm done. And millions of people watched that clip and agreed because it feels true. It feels like it matches what we've been told. Hit rock bottom, lose enough, hurt enough, then you'll change. But here's what nobody tells you. If suffering cured addiction, nobody would relapse after losing their marriage. Nobody would relapse after jail. Nobody would relapse after watching their organs fail. They do, all the time. The real question isn't whether suffering starts recovery, it's why suffering alone can't finish it. That's what we're going to talk about today. Let me start what Ben got right, because he did get something right. Most people don't change until the pain of staying the same becomes bigger than the fear of changing. That's not just recovery wisdom, that's human psychology. In the rooms, we call it sick and tired of being sick and tired. In neuroscience, it's called hitting the emotional threshold, where your limbic system finally overrides your prefrontal cortex's ability to rationalize one more day of the same behavior. And here's the part Affleck nailed. That moment is real. That morning you wake up and something has shifted. Not because anyone convinced you, not because you read the right book, but because your body and your brain finally reached a point where continuing was harder than stopping. That's not nothing. For a lot of people, that moment is the door. The problem is what happens after you walk through it. Here's where it gets dangerous. If you believe suffering is the cure, not just the catalyst, then when the suffering stops, you're in trouble. Because here's what actually happens. You get sober, the acute withdrawal ends, maybe you string together 30 days, 60, 90. The physical crisis is over. You're not suffering the way you were. And your brain says, I'm not in pain anymore, so I'm cured. That voice telling you you're the only one in your recovery group who still feels anxious or empty, it's just not true. What's actually happening is something called PAWS. Your brain spent years adapting to a substance that was flooding your dopamine system. It downregulated, it compensated. And now that the substance is gone, your brain doesn't just snap back. It has to rebuild its entire reward architect from scratch. That takes 6 months to 2 years, sometimes longer. During that window, a lot of people feel flat, anhedonic, like the color got drained out of their life. And if you were told that suffering was the cure, that pain was the point, you're not prepared for this part because you're not suffering. You're just empty. That's not a sign that recovery isn't working. That's a sign that your brain is rebuilding. So when Affleck's quote hit Reddit last week, the top comments weren't just agreeing or disagreeing. The most upvoted response cut deeper. Paraphrasing, most addiction is rooted in trauma. So the choice isn't just stop using. It's stop using and also face the thing you've been numbing for years. That's the part Affleck's soundbite misses. If you were self-medicating trauma, and most people with substance use disorders were, then getting sober means the anesthetic wears off. The thing you were running from, it's still there. It's been waiting. And now you have to face it without the one coping mechanism you relied on. So the suffering doesn't end when the substance leaves your system. It shifts. It becomes emotional. It becomes memory. It becomes sitting alone at 2 a.m. with your thoughts you haven't let yourself think in 10 years. This struggle isn't a personal failure, it's a shared experience. And here's what nobody tells you about that phase: you don't cure it by suffering more, you cure it by learning how to feel things without drowning in them. That's not suffering, that's skill building. It's therapy, it's community, it's rewiring stress responses one day at a time. It's boring, it's slow, it doesn't make a good soundbite, but it works. Getting your life back means you actually have to build one from scratch. That's the part that doesn't fit on the sobriety coin. When you remove the substance, you also remove the identity that was built around it. Who you drank with, where you went, what you did at 7 p.m. every night, how you celebrated, how you grieved, how you coped with boredom. All of it gone. And here's where I think Affleck's framing can actually do harm. If you believe that suffering alone produces change, that you just need to endure enough pain and then you'll be fixed, you're not building anything. You're just waiting, waiting through the pain for some version of yourself that you assume will be waiting on the other side. That version doesn't exist. You have to create them, and creating takes time. It takes trying things that don't work. It takes discovering that you actually hate meditation and prefer running. It takes finding out that the friends you thought who would support you disappear, and strangers in recovery meetings become family. Don't just visualize your goals. Feel them, but also build them with your hands, with your schedule, with the small, unglamorous decisions you make every single day. So, if suffering starts recovery but doesn't finish it, what does? Three things. None of them make a good movie quote. One, time. Your brain needs months, sometimes years to recalibrate. You cannot rush neurobiology. Every day you stay sober, your dopamine receptors are literally repairing themselves. That flat, empty feeling, it's not permanent. It's temporary. It's your brain doing construction work. Two, connection. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. That's not my line, it's Johan Hari's, and the research backs it up. The people who stay sober long term don't do it through willpower. They do it through relationships, meetings, sponsors, friends who don't drink, people who answer the phone at midnight. And three, purpose. You need a reason to stay sober that's bigger than the reason you used. Not, I don't want to lose my job. Not fear. Something you're moving towards, not away from. That's different for everyone. For some people, it's family. For others, it's creative work. For others, it's helping the next person who's where you were a year ago. But you have to find it. And finding it takes time and trial and error, not suffering, building. So, was Ben Affleck wrong? No, he was incomplete. Suffering can be the door, but it's not the house. It's not the roof over your head. It's not the life you build on the other side. The cure for addiction isn't just suffering. It's what you do after the suffering gets you through the door. It's patience when your brain won't cooperate. It's connection when you want to isolate. And it's purpose, real, felt, daily purpose that gives you a reason to stay. That 90-day mark isn't a finish line, but for many, a cliff. But if you know what's coming, if you're prepared for the flatness, the emptiness, the identity vacuum, you can navigate it, not by suffering more, by building. Thanks for being here. And if this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you on the next one.